The old 1989 Honda CG125 lay silently in the corner of her father's dusty shed. Dust had covered every part, paint flaked away in large patches, rust crawled all over the frame, the seat was torn and rotted, the tires flat, wires dangling like spider webs. The headlamp lens was cracked, the speedometer fogged and unreadable. Yet inside all this decay, Lan still recognized the single-cylinder engine block, intact but long asleep. She placed her hand on the rusty fuel tank and whispered, "We'll bring you back to life. This time, you'll wear a new look, become a true cafe racer." In her mind she had already sketched the vision, a slim and aggressive cafe racer stance, with a clean black matte frame, polished metallic silver tank, a handmade brown leather solo seat, clip-on handlebars, shiny spoke wheels, and a short exhaust with a deep growl. She knew it would demand weeks of work, but her excitement was stronger than hesitation. The work began with complete disassembly. She rolled the bike into the yard, laid out her tools, wrenches, sockets, screwdrivers, pliers, rubber mallet, and started removing the rotten seat and rusty tank. The bolts were frozen solid after decades, so she sprayed WD-40 into each joint, waited, then pushed harder until they gave way with a squeak. "Stubborn, huh, but I'm tougher," she muttered. Next, the front and rear wheels came off, the fork, the headlight cluster. Every removed part was carefully labeled and sealed in plastic bags with a marker. "No way I'm mixing these up when I put you back together." Finally, with a friend's help, she pulled the engine block out of the frame, nearly 40 kilos of iron. They laid it on the bench, oil dripping black and sticky from old seals. She wiped it clean, eyes narrowed with determination. The frame restoration came first. Rust had eaten into the metal, and some areas were thin. She took the angle grinder with a wire brush disc, pressing it hard against the rusty surface, sparks flying, the acrid smell of burning metal filling the air. Bit by bit, bare steel reappeared. She cleaned it with solvent, brushed on anti-rust primer, and sent the whole frame for powder coating in matte black. When she picked it up, it was transformed, sleek, strong, and modern. She trimmed the rear section, welded a neat loop at the tail to fit a solo seat. Sweat dripped down her face, but she smiled, yes. This is the backbone of a cafe racer, strong and clean. The heart of the bike, the 125 cubic centimeters single-cylinder engine, needed revival. She stripped the head, checked the piston and cylinder. The piston crown was thick with carbon deposits, the piston rings worn down, valve clearances too wide. Using a feeler gauge, she measured the gaps, clearly out of spec. Not fatal. New rings, new bearings, and a tune-up will fix this. She ordered parts, piston rings, bearings, oil seals, a new spark plug, and an air filter. While waiting, she tore down the carburetor, soaked it in cleaner, brushed the jets, blew compressed air through every passage. She checked the float and adjusted its height for proper fuel level. A cafe racer stalling mid-ride? Embarrassing. When the parts arrived, she replaced everything, cleaned the piston crown, fitted new rings, lubricated and slid it back into the cylinder. With a torque wrench she tightened bolts to factory spec, then adjusted the valve clearance carefully with the feeler gauge. The reassembled engine was painted heat-resistant black, with the side covers polished to a silver shine. Looking at the block, she thought, a new heart, ready to beat again. The wiring was next. The old harness was a tangled mess of brittle insulation. She scrapped it and built a new minimal loom, only essentials, headlight, taillight, turn signals, ignition. She bought a small gel battery, tucked it discreetly under the seat. Clip-on LED indicators were wired in. She cut, soldered, crimped terminals, sealed them with heat-shrink tubing. She welded a small tray under the seat loop to mount the fuse box neatly. No clutter, just clean lines. That's the cafe way. The fuel tank, though original, was reshaped. She cut the tail end shorter, welded new steel plates, ground it smooth until the lines were slim and sharp. She sprayed it in metallic silver, added thin black decals along the flanks. The old Honda emblem remained, a nostalgic badge of origin. She stood back, eyes gleaming, yes. This is the soul of the bike. The wheels were rebuilt. She removed the rusty spokes and laced new stainless ones, tightening each in sequence, using a dial gauge to true the rim until it spun perfectly round. She mounted classic 18-inch street tires with smooth tread, perfect for the cafe look. Fork seals were replaced, fresh fork oil poured in, rear shocks swapped for shorter units to drop the stance lower and leaner. For the cockpit, she mounted clip-on handlebars directly to the fork tubes, forcing a forward-leaning riding position. She bolted on CNC-machined aluminum clutch and brake levers, light and firm. The solo seat was custom-made, wrapped in genuine brown leather, stitched in white thread. It fit snugly on the welded tail loop. A small round tail light was bolted on at the end, discreet and minimal. The stock exhaust was cut short and replaced with a chrome megaphone muffler, its throat promising a deep growl. Weeks of effort finally came together. The black frame cradled the rebuilt engine, silver tank gleamed, wheels spun true. Lan poured fresh fuel, topped the oil, and adjusted the carbs-air-fuel mixture screw. She turned the key, gave a kick. The first stroke, just a dull fut. Second try, the engine trembled, puffed a cloud of white smoke. Third try, the cylinder fired, pock, pock. Boom boom, the exhaust barking alive. The yard filled with the deep rumble of a reborn machine. Lan threw her hands up, yes. Alive. The Honda CG125 Cafe Racer lives again. She strapped on her helmet, pulled on gloves, eased the clutch, and rolled forward. The bike surged smoothly, its growl echoing along the narrow lane. The wind rushed past, her body leaning low, heart racing. Villagers turned to look, murmuring, "That old wreck. It looks like a racer now." She rode toward the riverbank, stopped, and gazed at the reflection of the silver tank and black frame in the water. From a pile of rust and dust, she had forged her own cafe racer, a machine not only of steel but of persistence and soul. She ran her hand over the polished tank and whispered, "It's not just a motorcycle. It's a whole journey."